Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn out to poem 605, The Spider Holds a Silver Ball. This is another nature poem where the spider and the spider's web are going to become a powerful symbol. Many have believed that this poem is in fact Emily's commenting on her own poetry through the identification not only with the spider, but with what the spider creates, namely the web. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 604 poems. We just finished with 604 unto my books. Now, again, the question of this poem is, in what ways does Emily see herself as the spider? And in some ways, as well as one scholar has pointed it out, Emily's fear. In this regards, the tapestries of her poems, woven secretly in her room, might be destroyed by an unsympathetic editor, end quote. And as we read this poem, I think that word picture will immediately come to mind. She'll say it this way. The spider holds a silver ball in unperceived hands, and dancing softly to himself, his yarn of pearl unwinds. He plies from knot to knot in unsubstantial trade, supplants our tapestries with his in half the period. An hour to rear supreme his continents of light, then dangle from the housewife's broom his boundaries forgot. Now there's a whole number of ways to read this poem. I mean, some of you guys will read this as, well, this is kind of the life, it seems, of the high school student, the college student, who spends all of their time doing all of this work, creating, for example, a paper which once read, it's over, it's done. It's like the beautiful spider's web that ends up somehow on the end of of a broom because somebody used the broom to knock down the spider's web. Now, Emily's use of spider is interesting in her poetry. We saw it already in 140. We'll see it again in 1138. When we get there, it will read like this. 1138. A spider sewed at night without a light upon an ark of white. If rough it was of dame, or shroud of gnome, himself in form of immortality, his strategy was physiognomy. And then she'll use spider again in 1167. She'll use it again in 1275. We'll come back to this poem when we read this, 1275. The spider, as an artist, has never been employed, though his surpassing merit is freely certified. By every broom and Bridget, we'll get obviously back to broom in a moment, throughout a Christian land, neglected son of genius, I take thee by the hand. Again, I think the word neglected is the key word of that poem. It will inform our reading of this one as well. And then finally, she'll mention spiders again in 1423. Notice she says about the spider that the spider holds a silver ball. Notice we'll go to yarn of pearl in a second. In unperceived hands. Now, I can't read these lines without thinking about our study of 441. This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me. The simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see. For love of her sweet countrymen judge tenderly of me. It is this hands I cannot see. Notice here, the spider holds a silver ball in unperceived hands. And dancing softly to himself. Dancing will take us back to 143 and 369. Dancing softly to himself. His yarn of pearl unwinds, takes us back to the very first poem. And I think we might have said in that very first poem, this is a key word, this idea of unwinding, of revealing in some way. Emily identifying in some ways with the spider. Then she'll say, he plies from knot to knot. I mean, creating something out of nothing, if you will. It is brilliant to play that game. Notice both of the uses of knot are capitalized here. In unsubstantial trade. Again, the word unsubstantial I think is important. In other words, spiders do their spider thing to make these webs. We don't have any capacity to really fully appreciate the majesty of what it is that they're doing. Supplants our tapestries with his. You'll remember tapestries from 278. In half the period. In other words, you have these paintings on the wall, and then you got a spider who is somehow working, making the spider web in half the time, and it's far more beautiful, she says. An hour to rear supreme. Again, the word rear, I think, is central here. His continence of light. Notice C and L capitalized. And it's kind of clear that maybe Emily is identified. Yes, it takes so much work to produce this, but then dangle from the housewife's broom his boundaries for God. By the way, one rendering of boundaries was actually sophistries. And I think the word for God here is the key word of the poem. And I think there's a point that it's set off with 2 dashes. What is the point here at 2A? Well, I think the argument is that often artists, genius like Emily, doubt whether their creations are really worthy and will be sustainable as they work from naught to naught. At 2B, well, the word picture, obviously, the spider's web is brilliant. And I mean, we can't help but think of Emily's poems in some way. At 3A, her contemporary, although she never read him and she never met him, Walt Whitman, of course, played with spiders as well. We've given full lectures on all of the poems of the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We call that series, of course, Talks with Walt. This series, Chats with Emily. And you'll remember our study here. This one published, of course, in 1863. Emily's poem, we believe, of 1862. A noiseless, patient spider. A noiseless, patient spider, I marked where on a little promontory it stood isolated, marked how to explore the vacant, vast surrounding it, launched forth filament, filament, filament out of itself, ever unreeling them, ever tirelessly speeding them. And you, O my soul, where you stand, surrounded, detached in measureless oceans of space, ceaselessly musing, venturing, throwing, seeking the spheres to connect them, till the bridge you will need be formed, till the ductile anchor hold, till the gossamer thread you fling catch somewhere, O my soul. Of course, this filament, 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 can't help but think of naught from naught. And again, to think, these 2 poets, contemporaries, if ever we could have imagined the 2 sitting down with us to have a chat, how much fun would that be? Finally, at 3B, when was a time that you doubted the value of your own creation, that it would end up on the end of a broom and for naught? Thank you.